Ambassador Power, Your Majesty, Mr. President, Secretary General, Excellencies, members of the Congress of the United States of America, and fellow workers for the hope of the world, the United Nations organization. Thank you very much to the wonderful organizations, the Foundation and the Association, that has awarded me this very distinctive honor. I'm very proud to be here with you all, and I'm most proud to receive this award not only for my own behalf, but on behalf of the Secretariat who worked to the Commission of Inquiry, and also my fellow commissioners. These things don't happen with one person. They are a group effort, and this is one occasion where the United Nations has undoubtedly done everything that we sought to be done. It is an occasion when we can celebrate the United Nations at its very best. I wish that my colleagues in the Commission of Inquiry could be here with me tonight, but I'll certainly be telling them about this glittering occasion and the presence of all of you. I congratulate my fellow awardees, and I thank them for the service of the United Nations. And I digress a little from my prepared remarks because of the reference made by Ambassador Power to my work in Australia for LGBT people. I do so in order here, publicly, before all of you, to thank and congratulate our Secretary General, and to thank and congratulate the Administrator of UNDP, to thank and congratulate the High Commissioners for Human Rights, and in particular Navi Pillay, who has just demitted office, and Prince Said, who has just taken up office, and to thank Michel Sidibé. Never will the planets be so aligned in order with leaders of the international community who have been courageous and strong and principled. Mr. Secretary General, on behalf of millions of people around the world whom we will never know, I express thanks to you for your courageous stand on the issue of a minority too long oppressed. And I say that when in due course human rights is accorded to all members of LGBT minorities right around the world, it will be a very important legacy of your term as Secretary General of the United Nations. My journey to this moment and this platform has been a long one. When I was 5, and I thank Kathy Calvin for mentioning Eleanor Roosevelt, I was lined up in my first school with all the school children on Concord Road in Sydney, Australia, and we watched a motorcade and Eleanor Roosevelt went by. That great lady was going to a big hospital in Sydney to open the hospital where there were wounded soldiers who were fighting in the cause that became the Charter of the United Nations and the principles in that Charter of Universal Human Rights. When I was 10 in 1949, all Australian school children received a copy of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. I remember it was on airmail paper, something extremely rare in 1949. And we were taught about the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. And it's a good thing if students everywhere can relearn the lessons of the Universal Declaration. Later, as a young man, I worked with John Humphrey, a great Canadian lawyer. John Humphrey was the head of the Secretariat of Eleanor Roosevelt in preparing the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. There's a stamp in a room of the United Nations headquarters here in New York issued by Canada with the beautiful handwriting of John Humphrey, which says all persons are endowed with fundamental human rights. It is something that belongs to people. It's not something that is given to them by governments. I knew John Humphrey, and he was a great toiler in the vineyard of the United Nations. And more recently, as you've heard from Ambassador Power, I've worked in the Commission of Inquiry on North Korea. Now, as the Ambassador has said, in the last weeks, there has been a charm offensive by North Korea. They are beginning at long last to engage with the international community, and this is good. And it was good that the ambassadors, a delegation of 7 were there today in the ECOSOC chamber to respond to the matters that were raised by me and members of the United Nations family. The steps that have been taken by North Korea are significant, but they're not enough, and they're mostly words, and words are not enough. Engaging with Universal Periodic Review, but when you actually look at what they have done, they've agreed now, having originally said they didn't agree to a single one of the recommendations, the only country in the whole world that has ever taken that stance, they've now agreed to 113 of 268. But I would myself like to see the product of that agreement. I would like to see it in actuality and not simply accept their word for it. And anyway, that leaves a very large majority that have not been attended to at all, that have been rejected. And this is a country where the human rights situation is so grim as portrayed in our report. They said they would produce a rosy report on their own human rights. Well, it certainly is rosy. I'm probably one of a handful of people in the whole world who've read the publication, which is 93 densely typed pages. It discloses a beautiful picture of human rights in North Korea. Pity that it doesn't accord with the facts and evidence as found by the Commission of Inquiry. And the key to it is found in that report, where they say it is by our will and decision that we accept the universal principles of human rights. Our will and decision. Well, that is to claim a veto over the application of Eleanor Roosevelt's declaration, and it doesn't appear in the declaration or the charter or the human rights treaties that North Korea has signed. A few weeks ago, to Incheon, unexpectedly, at the end of the Asian Games, the second or third highest official of North Korea turned up and reopened discussions with the Republic of Korea. Can it be entirely coincidental that that has happened now? But I remind you that that official and those who work with him and under him still have control of the 4th largest standing army in the world for a country of 23 million, the 4th largest, and reportedly 23 nuclear warheads, and reportedly a missile system which can deliver those weapons to the neighbouring states and, let it be said, also to North Korea itself. And in recent days, one United States citizen has been released. So these are steps that are being taken to try to lead the United Nations to say, well, our dream has come true. North Korea at last is engaging with us. Let us leave them alone and let us see how that develops. That would be a very wrong step to take. It would be completely inconsistent with the principles that the Secretary-General has endorsed, the principles of rights up front, the principle of accountability for great crimes, and there are no greater crimes than crimes against humanity, and the principle of responsibility to protect, which was adopted unanimously by the General Assembly in 2005. Actions speak louder than words. when the ambassador came today to the ECOSOC room, I said to him that I asked him first to withdraw his contention that the witnesses who came before us, some of whom also gave testimony today, were human scum who were liars and who had been bribed by the United States to give their testimony to the Commission of Inquiry. I said he should first withdraw those statements. Their testimony is online, but it's not available in North Korea. I asked him to agree that the report of the Commission of Inquiry would be made available to the citizens of North Korea and available on their intranet so that they can see what this body of the world community under the Human Rights Council of the United Nations has found about their country, and he would not agree to that. And I then asked that, as our report had said, to let us come in. Let me go, let the Special Rapporteur go to North Korea. We will debate, we will exchange, and it will be done respectfully, but it should be done. And he would not agree to that. So these are the requirements that I think the United Nations should demand before there are any too early agreements with North Korea. And this is what, if he were here tonight, Leo Nivis would say. It's what John Humphrey would say. It's what Eleanor Roosevelt would say, and it's what the victims of North Korea say in their testimony to the COI. Thank you very much for this award, and I express my respects and thanks to the United Nations, and I hope that the United Nations will not waver on this report, but will stay the course until justice is delivered to the people of North Korea.